Have you ever experienced this? You meet someone and they talk and talk and talk, and you never get a word in edgewise? Or maybe you've caught yourself doing that. Did you know that that rambling could kill your personal brand? We're going to talk about that today. Check it out. All right, let's get going. Why rambling kills your personal brand. Now, let's not act like this is rare. It happens all the time. You run into someone, they chat and chat and chat, and you want to go to your next thing, but you can't because they can't stop talking. And you think you have a window, but then suddenly another story opens up and you're like, what is happening? Right? This has happened to all of us. And the problem is, not that you're not enjoying this person's enthusiasm or even the content that they're sharing or the ideas that they're sharing. The problem is that the rambling is creating a rift in the relationship. And there's three ways this is happening. The first thing that's happening is the person that's typically rambling is being confusing. Confusing is a problem. When someone's being confusing, you have no idea what the point is, what they're talking about. And when you ramble on, you tend to lose people's focus. And you, instead of thinking this is really interesting, they start to think, when is this going to end? So the opposite of being confusing is being clear. So your goal as potentially someone who's rambling is to really figure out, what do I need to say to convey my idea, and say nothing more. We don't need more and more examples unless they're asked for. Maybe one example is a good story, but that story still should have a beginning, middle, and end. And if you find yourself talking for 3, 4, 5 minutes and the other person's not filling the space, it's not because they don't have a story to share. It's because you are taking up all the space. Now, don't take offense at this. Just realize that there are cues to that. And if you start to notice those cues, you get to take a break. And we will give you some solutions here at the end. But realize that clarity is much more important than creating confusion. Second problem with rambling and why that kills your personal brand is not only are you not unclear, but you are being a little bit selfish. And it may not be on purpose, but when you're being selfish, it means that you are taking up all the time and sharing your thoughts, your ideas, but you're not giving the other person any time to share theirs. And maybe you think you're giving a lot of value by talking at somebody, but generally the value comes in the sharing of ideas and by the being curious about the other person and in that back and forth in the conversation. So when one side of the relationship is talking, they're actually the ones taking. They're not the ones giving. They might feel like they're giving, but it's just not true. What they're taking is your time. And that brings us to the third thing. It's not just selfish. It's also a waste of time in a lot of cases. We don't always have an unlimited amount of time, especially if you're doing this in a conference or a meeting or an event. We have a limited amount of time to meet a lot of people. And if you are rambling on, you are taking that person's time that they could be spending meeting other people. And yes, they want to meet you as well, but they want to get to the point, know exactly who you are, understand a little bit more about you, get a feeling for you, and then they want the relationship to be over so that they can say hi again next time. The relationship doesn't all have to happen crammed into those couple of minutes that you're getting to know somebody. You don't have to turn a 2-minute hello into a 30-minute dissertation on your life and your story. So what essentially happens is, not only are you confusing them and being selfish, you're wasting their time. That reduces the value of that interaction. So if your personal brand is your reputation, you're now, instead of having a reputation of someone who is clear, I know exactly what they do and what they stand for. They are very curious about other people and want to understand and get to know that person better and give value. Now they feel like a person who is confusing. You're not sure what they are about. They feel a little selfish and they tend to waste your time. Same person, a little bit of a communication tweak, and it's a totally different outcome. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, okay, when I'm starting to meet someone for the first time, or I'm in a group and I'm talking and it's my turn to say something, have an idea of what that thing is going to be. Practice it. Every time I drive to a conference, I think about what is the context of the place I'm going to be. If I'm going to a conference for podcasters, I think in terms of podcasting. I say, okay, what is important for them to know right now about me in the podcasting space? And what do I want to ask about them, typically about their show? Tell me about your show. How is it? How is your show going? What are you excited about? Are you doing anything different this year? I think in the very specific context of their podcast. And then on my end, I give that same kind of information. I don't tell them everything under the sun. I talk about, this is my show. This is what we're doing right now. Here's what we're excited about. The little things, maybe some things we've learned. We've exchanged some tips, but very short, precise. So I think about that ahead of time. What is the context of the place I am, and what is helpful for the other people? And I'm genuinely curious going into it. So not only do you want to think about the context, you want to think about, what is it that I am excited to learn about other people? And at any point in this, the simple solution is pause and figure out what question you want to ask next. Take a break, say, I feel like I'm rambling on. I'd love to hear more about you. And have a question that you're genuinely curious about knowing. And you'll notice that every time someone suddenly switches the topic back to you, that person feels more involved in the conversation. Like you actually care what their story is, not just what your story is. And when you start to ask questions, typically the person who asks the most questions, the person receiving those questions, feels the most valued in the conversation. So flip the script. Start doing something different. Start thinking about how you can ask other people questions, not like a third degree, but questions that come up naturally and organically that are going to make them feel like you're genuinely curious because of the thing that you have in common, the common ground, the reason that you're at the meeting or event in the first place. So figure out ahead of time what you can do. Think about how you can ask better questions, but also get real clear on what your stories are and how you want to share those and when. Because context is everything. Sometimes understanding that you have a moment or you have a few minutes or you have a whole dinner to talk about something is key. If you can identify the context, the where you are and what is appropriate, you can figure out where you can actually get into deeper conversations versus mid-level versus short. And now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Brandon, that's just going to leave me with small talk. But guess what? Small talk serves a purpose. For a lot of people, especially if it's contextual small talk, how's your show doing? What's it going on? What's the name of it? What's it about? Why are you here? Contextual small talk helps build a little bit of trust. It builds some camaraderie. It builds some common ground. You learn a little bit about each other that would bring you closer together so that then when you get into the deeper questions, people are more confident in sharing because they feel like they got to know you a little bit better. So there is room for small talk. You just have to use it tactfully. And then you can follow up. Just realize this meeting isn't the only time you'll ever get to talk to each other. You'll have another chance. Whether it's in the hallway a few hours later or after the next meeting or after the next meal, or maybe at a different conference or a different event, you'll have a chance to follow up. And if you don't, get their information so that you can follow up later. Give yourself a chance to make a better first impression. So again, why is rambling killing your personal brand? Well, it's confusing, it's selfish, and it wastes a little bit of time. But if you can just be a little bit clearer, a little bit more interested instead of interesting, and figure out the context of where you are, then you'll go from being that rambler to being someone who's genuinely engaged in conversations that people want to be in. Don't be a time vampire, please. This is your PSA for the day. I hope you appreciate it. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Brands on Brands.